Hi, I'm Chris Nedza, Lead Entrepreneur in Residence of the Advanced Technology Development Center at Georgia Tech. We're the state of Georgia's technology incubator. Welcome to Season 1 of the ATDC podcast, Executive Bytes. We focus on the startup founders in our portfolio, what sparked them to launch their companies, the market problem they've solved, and even how they overcame the thoughts of quitting when times get rough. Enjoy. Welcome to today's episode of Executive Bytes. Today we have the CEO of SpotSource, Brian Regienczuk. But I also have my co-host, Christy Brown, who's the CEO of Dr. Knows Best. Thank you guys for being here. So we're going to have a good time. So we're going to dive right in and get into SpotSource. And I love the name because a lot of companies have these names, but it literally is Spot the Source. You guys work with enterprise customers and you help them spot the source to get their projects and their work done. I know that's a very crude description, so I'm going to ask you, describe it so the world knows what you guys do.
Sure. So supplier management, but for service providers. Traditionally, procurement tools do not manage services and other indirect procurement areas very well. We basically spin up internal marketplaces that are private to those companies and help them take all the data they have about those suppliers. We add a lot more to it so they can make better data-driven decisions on who to use for what. And then we add projects and bidding modules to help them stay in one place, those experts, so they don't have to keep changing and they can just do everything end to end from finding that source, that partner, all the way to paying them and collecting performance data on how they did. Okay, so I'm somebody working in a large company that, let's just say it has an orange logo in a big box kind of a thing. Sure.
And so I work at corporate. I don't, but I'm just saying. And I'm looking for a vendor to help me do a marketing piece.
Yeah.
What would I do?
Okay. So, we would have an internal marketing or agency marketplace. You would just log in and for the service you're looking for, or you could already start writing a brief. And we would use the data from the brief to help recommend partners for you.
So I could use your tool to write the brief.
You could write the brief, and we would use that data from your brief to help recommend the best partner, or you could do a straightforward search. And we basically have all the company's data on who those suppliers are, and we add so much more to it, along with all the historical project data too, to help you make the best choice.
And it's not out in the world, it's the approved vendors for my company already, so I know I'm safe.
That's right. And all the compliance data, all the risk management stuff related to your company and those suppliers are in the tool at one unified place to really understand who's who and who's the best fit.
That's extraordinary. So tell me a little more. You must measure time savings for these people, and that has to be the largest ROI for your customer.
It is. What we have found, some of our customers are achieving 50% time saved.
Incredible. Just
in the marketing world, and in R&D, they're going to market 3 to 6 months faster, which is huge. Yeah.
Where did you come up with this idea? You must have been burdened at your job at some point. Because that's how it works, right? As a founder of a company, I address a pain that isn't being addressed. So can you give me a little background? How'd that happen?
Yeah, for sure. It's something that's come up a couple times in my career. So when I was at Philips, we started to think about service supplier management even back then, but more recently at Coca-Cola, it was eye-opening to me. We had over 3,000 marketing agencies, suppliers, and around the world. And I was relatively new, and people kept coming to me asking me, hey, who should I use for different types of services? And they weren't even areas I was an expert in sometimes. So I was like, what is going on? I started researching it, talking to other colleagues, and realized every big company had the same problem. Procurement was throwing a spreadsheet of suppliers over to you when you needed to find somebody, but it didn't have much data. It was like the name, the address, the website, and a contact. And what marketers, at the time were getting frustrated with, they got this list. It might have 100 agencies on it. Most of them, when they started going to the websites, weren't a good fit.
Well, like when you say data, what kind of data are you giving them?
So we know what those suppliers are actually good at. So it's not like, they're good at marketing, which is what a lot of traditional procurement tools will tell you. They are in the marketing category. We actually zero in on, depending on your company, maybe you do a lot of events. Maybe there's 3 or 4 different subsets of types of events that get run or things you need from events. We get very granular down to the very specific data that helps this is an expert. And we show you the track record. Who have they worked with in your company? How have they performed on those other projects? Yeah.
Very good. So you mentioned you were at Coca-Cola before this.
Yeah.
And so has your whole entire career been like big company, and you now have this problem that you've solved? Are you a first-time founder? Tell me more.
I am a first-time founder.
Welcome to the jungle.
Yeah, but I have worked at small businesses. I've worked at big companies. I'd say most of my career has been on the big company side, and I have done a few like consulting stints as well. But yeah, it's been interesting. We actually we started originally like almost 13 years ago, and we sold that part of the company just recently, like last year. So we've had an exit. And now 4.5 years ago, we started SpotSource, and that's what we're continuing forward with. This whole idea of, saving the enterprise so much time, money, and delivering better return on your investment.
So you guys did a quasi pivot. So you not ditched. That's a bad word, but you
transacted,
exited a different business that wasn't essential to your vision for where you want to go. Is that what I'm hearing?
Well, it was a really good exit for us. What we thought originally was these two had more in common than they ended up having,
I see.
So it was a juggling act to kind of support them both.
Mm-hmm.
So it was good for us to offload it, but it was also a very good deal for us. So we've taken that extra capital to deploy it to grow SpotSource.
So I got a question for you. If you could solve one problem in your industry, what would it be?
I mean, I hate when people are sitting, at these big companies and they are frustrated. Like there are moments, especially when you change jobs or you're new to a job, or your boss tells you to tackle a whole new area like AI or something, and people are just sitting there almost paralyzed. Right? I want to help people overcome that moment of paralysis and turn it into kind of success.
Right. That's it. So you would just wave the magic wand.
I would
say,
easy
peasy, go to the SpotSource tool and get to work.
It literally what?
Because that's what it sounds like to me. I mean, I get it. I can picture these. Like I've worked with a lot of large companies, and I just know what a pain it is.
Yeah. Well, literally, people tell us. So we have directors and managers coming to us saying, "Thank God for this tool. Like we've been looking for something like this for 3 years, right?" And we've also got people who just joined, who we onboard, and they're like, "It's like I've been trying to get onboarded at this company for like a month, and I just sat down and saw all the stuff my team had been doing, and it's like it clicked like within a day. Like they knew what their team was doing, what the person they replaced was doing. It's just all there for them."
Hey, let's switch gears with him, and I know you'll love this too. Okay, what's your biggest aha going from the corporate, mothership to the desert island of entrepreneurship?
I would say the hardest thing for us, or for me personally, has been at big companies, you can apply for budget and you can make your case. And if it's logical and there's a good ROI, you will, more often than not, you'll get all the money, or at least a good chunk of the money to accomplish your goals. With investors and speaking kind of the financial language that investors require, that has been eye-opening to me. It's a whole different way to think about things.
Like, what do you mean?
Well, yeah, it's hard for me to explain or put it in words, but I mean, it's been something that has been a real learning curve for me. It's not intuitive. I think a lot of people leave a big company and just, you can be very successful. And you think, oh, yeah, I can raise money. I know people with money, right? But it's not so easy, right? So I don't know if you've had similar experiences. But
Christy has done this a million times.
Yeah.
Like I said, she's done anything except for conquer a country. Yeah.
I don't know. Is that on my radar? I don't know if that's on
No.
my radar to conquer a country.
No.
Maybe an island, a Caribbean island.
An island? Okay.
Oh, yeah.
It's like we can go there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That is an aha moment, though. I think switching gears, going from, this comfort zone into entrepreneurship, I think most people just don't realize how much you have to do.
Yeah.
And I often say it's the loneliest place in the world, because even though you may have forums and groups around you, it's still very lonely. It's all your decision. It's a very lonely place to live.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So maybe the island is a good idea for me now that I think about it.
Yeah,
Just lonelier.
I've heard a lot of people talk about, well, I've been an innovation and an entrepreneur within a large company, and it's very similar to being an entrepreneur in a small startup, and it's hard to explain to them, well, I don't know, you've been in both places sort of, right? Is it really the same, or is it like, hey, okay, you get your budget, you get your startup in a large company, it doesn't work out, what's the worst case scenario? They fire you, right? If you screw up, what's your worst case scenario? You have no home.
Right.
That's
that's the difference. I think is you worry about payroll, and you worry about where the funding comes from in any other environment where you may be and I don't mean that where you are an employee, not just an employee, but are an employee. You're just not worried about as much because it's there for you. You have budgets. You have things that you're managing.
Well, and there's a revenue track record that's different than a startup, right? So
absolutely.
Yeah, that's right. But it is a different. They fire you. You go get a new job. Maybe you're unemployed for a little while. But I don't know about you. I guess here's a question for you. Another one. Have you ever felt like quitting?
Oh,
and
of
what
course.
keeps you? I asked Christy that, and she goes, every day.
Every day.
So that's so funny. It's most startups go like entrepreneurs know that, right? What keeps you going? How do you keep because you started this how many years ago?
About 13 years ago.
Yeah. So 13 years of the 5-year and we're rich, thing. What keeps you going, and how do you grind through? Because it's a lot of fun too. It's not all grind, right? But what keeps you going?
So I have always been committed to I want to have a job that I love, right? And so if I was at a company and I didn't love my job, I would start looking for a new job. That is really important to me. And it's the same for me as an entrepreneur. Of course, there's ups and downs. There are weeks that you don't like your job, right? But overall, I just have the personality that I can rebound from that, and it's okay. Right?
Is there some like how do you rebound? You just wake up the next day and all better, or do you have some kind of a place that you go and routine, or how do you?
I don't. I guess I'm optimistic. I don't know. I have overwhelming optimism. I don't know. I and confidence in what we're doing. Right.
Okay.
I've seen how it impacts people. Even on on a week where you're struggling, there's still you can focus on the other side. Okay, maybe revenue isn't where you want it to be. Whatever's happening in the business, right? But you can also say, but last week we got 5 emails from customers who were so thankful for what we're doing.
I think that's really important. I think that it's important to celebrate victories because, my tendency is always to look at, what do I have to fix? I have to fix. And man, that can get to be a grind. Do you celebrate the victories? I mean, do you think that that's an important?
I was just reversing back to the question you asked that I don't think I've ever said this publicly, but for me to get through entrepreneurship, I've had to convince myself through every company I've started or funded or anything that I'm not going to end up sleeping in my car, that my family will help me. I've had to tell myself that at stages okay, we may feel like I'm at a dire point here, but I'm not going to be sleeping in the shelter tonight. My family will help me. And that has somehow over these past couple decades, like, given it to me. So I don't know, if that's baited me to keep going at times, but there is this inherent fear that I think we don't talk about in entrepreneurship of, you can lose your house, and what if I hit the bottom, or what if, we have no financials left? What if I have to raise money and give equity away? There's always these what ifs, through every stage of entrepreneurship. And I've never said that publicly, but it really is true. I've had to psychologically kind of dial it down to say, my family's not going to let me starve.
Right.
They're going to help me.
It's good to have a safety
They're
net.
They're going to help me.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know about you, but for me, the whole thing is that no matter how bad it is, there's somebody out there. Like, if you did lose, there's somebody out there that would trade places with you spot on immediately. So perspective is huge.
Perspective.
I mean, I always say I'm very fortunate, and having a safety net. If you're doing a startup, and you don't have some kind of safety net, right? We all come from different places and backgrounds and whatever, but whatever that means to you, right? I think that's so critical, right?
Yeah,
I don't know how people can do this without one, right?
Are you talking about a financial safety net or support network?
Whatever it is that you know you need. And it might be financial, it might be like, well, I can move back into my parents' basement, whatever it is, like, I don't know, whatever that is for you. I mean, I was a founder late in my career, right? So I wasn't ready to take that risk early on, right?
Yeah.
So there's finances, there's comfort level with relationships and other things, that I think are important to know yourself and know when that time is right.
Yeah, that's right.
Wholly agree.
Yeah, that's funny. So you started late in your career. Yeah. You started, did you ever go from corporate into it, or where did you start?
No, I started my first company when I was 24.
Wow.
So, but I was in corporate before that. I did consulting, and right out of school I had an internship with a big telco. So I mean, I saw some life for a couple years, but started a company. So I just haven't.
Interesting.
I've only lived inside of a company due to an earnout.
Yeah. That's interesting. Well, I was broke college student, couldn't get a job, so I had no place to go but to start my own thing. So I didn't know what that was like, That's super duper interesting.
I just didn't want to live in my parents' house, so I had to start something, and that has stuck with me. I tell the story in two sides of my mouth, right? Like, one side is like, okay, my parents would never let me starve. The other side is, they're not letting me back in, so I have to make something out of everything that I do.
Oh, wait a minute. Now, you said you didn't want to live in your parents' house. What you just said is really they didn't want you living in the house. Oh, I
can't imagine at this stage in my life.
Right. What about so your optimism and all that? I think that's awesome.
I say that, but it's really hard sometimes when you're with your team to, I would say, to reflect that and celebrate those victories, right? It's very easy to get focused on what needs to be done next and what is broken, what needs to be fixed. We aren't on track for something, right? It's always the case, whether that's revenue or whether that's some feature or something a customer's asked for. Like, there's always something you're chasing. So I think celebrating those victories is even if you're optimistic, is so important.
No, I agree. All right, last question for you. Well, and if you got one, go for it too. But okay, where are you in you have waved your magic wand. You've teleported to Boomtown. You are done. You have hit you've hit your goal of whatever that goal is. What does that look like?
I'm the kind of person that I don't see myself ever retiring, really. So I mean, I think I would be on to the next thing. I think, if I made bank, so to speak, I would be reinvesting it in the community in some way. Right?
Is bank private jet, or is bank?
Oh, no. I mean, that's excessive. I don't believe in private jets personally, but
until you have one.
Until you have one.
I'm never gonna have one.
Yeah, I don't have one yet either.
I can't imagine that. Yeah.
My goal is to serve you guys so that when you have the private jet, that I'm carrying your luggage on the jet with you. Yeah, we could do that, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, Brian, Christy, it's been awesome having you guys today, and thank you so much. This was, man, what a great, refreshing time to be with you guys. So Thank you so much. Let's do it again.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
Anytime.
Such
Awesome.
a pleasure.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of the ATDC podcast. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel, like, and share or connect wherever you get your podcasts. Please be sure to follow us on social media. Our handle is @ATDC on X, LinkedIn, and Instagram.